So, here we go.
It was filled with childish frustrations and complexes which the police were searching for James Thomas, believed to...
Hello, hello, hello. You're listening to Midnight Movie Gang. It is currently 7:51 p.m. Night Movie Gang. For those of you just tuning in, if this is your first episode, which this is episode 59, weird one to hop in on.
Big ant fan, I guess.
Big ant, yeah, people just love ants.
Yeah.
Earl, and the other movie we're going to talk about, which this we're recording, we've only, at the current moment, we just watched this first movie we're talking about. We have not watched the second movie in this episode, which is, I keep wanting to say God Made Me Do It, but that's not the title.
That's close.
What's the title?
We'll know what it is.
God told me to.
God told me to. Yeah, no, that I don't know why God Made Me Do It is
like the devil made me do it.
Yeah, I think maybe it's
Yeah.
definitely attaching to some
It's
other
kind
title.
of a play on that, but yeah.
But the movie we're going to talk about right now is a movie called Phase 4. I didn't mention. We talk about science fiction, horror, kind of cult classics. Like, that's kind of the focus of the show. This is heavy in the sci-fi. I told Rion over here, I was like, we haven't done like a hardcore, heady sci-fi like movie in a while, or like really nothing like this heady. Yeah. And I told Rion, like, what do you got? And he delivered. At least with his first film, which is called Phase 4. Phase 4 is a 1974 science fiction horror film directed by graphic designer and filmmaker Saul Bass.
Sick.
This movie was inspired by an short story by H.G. Wells.
Called it.
Called Empire of Ants.
I was like, man, this feels a lot like a sci-fi like short story.
Yeah, so
very tracks.
Very much tracks. This movie, I kind of want to. Usually at this point, we talk about like maybe our history with this film, what we had known about it going in. I didn't know anything about it personally.
Me either.
So Rion, you can tell us your story of like your first time seeing it, your history with it, and then also just I want to ask the group as well. What are some other, at least what I'm thinking of, some other like science fiction that this is kind of reminding you of other films, TV shows, like what did this movie bring up for you, type deal.
Like I was telling Joseph, many moons ago, there was this kind of extension of Showtime on cable called Showtime Beyond, and it was the central hub for cult films, independent movies, sci-fi, horror, fantasy, animation, you name it. Anything oddball and offbeat was on Showtime Beyond.
Sick.
And
Hell yeah.
back in the day when one was channel surfing late in the wee hours, I was like, hey, this is a weird movie. What's the Phase 4? And I was transfixed and spellbound by it, and here we are today talking about it.
If it weren't for Showtime Beyond, none of us would be sitting here talking about
exactly.
This movie certainly was beyond.
Bring back Showtime Beyond.
Yeah,
please.
Maybe the rights to like whoever like the licenses for those movies, like go to Tubi or something. I feel like when you're saying that, like I feel like if you want to watch something fucking weird, like Tubi's got everything.
Dude's just constantly pulling for that Tubi sponsorship.
Yeah, Tubi.
Come on. Yeah.
But yeah, most of the crazy shit, like Tetsuo is on Tubi as well, and like, you know, definitely a place to go for people today if you want to find crazy shit. I recommend that as a place. But yeah, no, for hell yeah. So like Rion, as far as would you say that this is like the kind of sci-fi like you kind of go for as like the general kind of things you seek out, or like are there any other movies in this vein that you could like recommend?
Oh, I mean, to answer the first half, absolutely, this is definitely my wheelhouse. I love thoughtful, very speculative sci-fi that still has like a very strong visual element about it. In terms of like this kind of sci-fi, that's very much a combination of like speculative to a little bit on the cosmic horror side of things. Actually, I recommended prior before us watching it, I mentioned Peter Weir's Picnic at Hanging Rock, which is very much cosmic horror but done very subtly, and it's more about just like the sense of awe and mystery, and that there's something bigger than humanity and you don't know how to come to terms with it, you know?
Just like a super interesting concept.
Yeah, kind of like Lovecraftian.
Exactly, and the Phase 4 definitely has those kinds of elements going on, you know.
It's great. Good sci-fi.
Yeah.
I honestly really like this movie.
Yeah. Joseph, tell us your little bit of your history with sci-fi. What is the sci-fi movie or show that made you love sci-fi, and what is it about science fiction that draws? I know it's kind of like a deep question, but
Yeah, I don't even
you
know.
you have a different relationship with this movie than Rion does, so I'm like, I
Right.
gotta,
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, and I'm trying to think of like specific. I've just always been like a really big fan of the genre. Like I like how grounded it is. I like when you can kind of like I like Star Trek a lot. I think that's and if you like Star Trek, this movie kind of it's kind of like a similar vibe. Of this kind of like really thoughtful kind of like what's this interesting concept? Okay, now let's base it in the world and see how people would probably react to it. I just like this kind of story a lot. It makes me think of like these like old. Like I kept saying, like it reminded me of like this feels like a short story that would be like in like a science magazine or like a or sci-fi writing magazine.
And it was quick that you pointed out that it's based on or loosely based on H.G. Wells' Empire of the Ants. That was made into a movie in the 70s, and it's the stark opposite of Phase 4.
and it's like the cheesy like balls to the wall version.
And
I
Joan
imagine.
Collins is in it, so it's arch camp.
This definitely could have been, like you said, it could have been like a crazy B movie, but it's an ant movie.
Yeah.
Right, you know.
It's an A movie.
It's not a B movie.
It's an A movie.
It's not about bees.
Yeah.
Different hive insect.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But this kind of heady sci-fi, like you said, Joseph, Star Trek was the immediate thing came to mind as far as like being my first exposure to like I feel like kind of what you said, a lot of this kind of science fiction that like we crave, where it's like people, it's a lot more focused on the characters reacting to these situations and like what
like
happens,
the different takes on this thing that there might be.
Yeah, like if you put real people in a situation where they have to encounter these things that you know make us question like fundamental things about ourselves, how they respond. It's the same thing as it's the same core of what makes what's it called? We had mentioned it during the while we were watching Arrival. You know, like same kind of thing that makes that sci-fi great as far as like what would real people do.
Yeah,
when-
Arrival's a good example of this kind of similar, like,
You know.
here are smart people encountering this new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason it got brought up, I want to come back to it later, but just let people know the reason I brought it up is because we were talking about kind of the whole phase where like this movie is from the era where like, you know, nobody invested money into sci-fi, and which not to say like this movie looks very good and the production value feels very high, but this is definitely like practically in front of you. It's pretty much a room and some close-up shots of ants.
Yeah, this set is a dome in the desert and sometimes a farmhouse.
Yeah. And it's not to say that is a bad thing. I think they work extremely well within their limitations.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting because like I feel like I don't know, we've grown early. In my experience, like, you know, like I'm kind of used to like, even though I grew up loving the old Star Trek, I think my first real encounter with like Star Trek was probably the J.J. Abrams, his first film.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, it's all high budget,
Yeah,
cool,
I've never
and
seen
sexy.
those.
And like part of it was like I remember it made me want to go back and revisit. Like my mom always watched it, but like wanted to revisit older Star Trek and be like, oh,
it's not like that at all.
it's not like that at all, but it's still good. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, it's I think it kind of ties in. For me, when I was growing up, Star Trek, Star Wars, that was kind of like, you know, oh, you're a kid growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, you're definitely going to, you know, get exposed to that. But what hit me in the face was at age 7 seeing 2001: A Space Odyssey. And you would think you would see that movie when you're a little older and whatnot. No, at 7, I was like,
What the hell is this?
Yeah.
right. And
That is the sci-fi gateway drug.
and then years later, speaking of Star Trek, you know, come to find out that, oh, wow, the guy who did Sound of Music and The Day the Earth Stood Still, The Sand Pebble, and West Side Story did
nuts.
Star Trek the Motion Picture in '79.
Yeah.
And Douglas Trumbull, who did the special effects for 2001: A Space Odyssey, Andromeda Strain, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, did motion picture.
That's so cool.
And that was also, I always thought the first movie was not only closer to the original intent of the series, but it was very much like that. Like, okay, these very trained, specialized individuals encountering an unknown for the first time and reacting to it. And
Yeah.
again, that sense of Lovecraftian,
Yeah.
you know.
They're like
horror.
super. I think the difference in between this and like a goofy monster movie is the intelligence of the protagonists.
Right.
As far, like these are like highly trained scientists who are like,
Yeah.
even though they have different reactions, they're still responding in a very logical, calculated way. Whereas, like, I don't know, like, yeah, you're right. As far as like, the quote unquote dumb version, the schlocky version is like some dumb teens encounter an alien,
Right,
or whatever.
Or
Yeah.
the scientist is like the voice of reason, but people just think they're an egghead.
Yeah.
And,
These protagonists do feel very smart.
Yeah, no,
Like you never get the impression that they're like incompetent. like
Yep.
they're trying to also think 2 steps ahead, just like the ants are.
exactly. The only character who might not is what's her name?
The
Kendra.
teenage girl who isn't really a character.
Yeah, the teenage girl who's there only to be ogled at.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Grossly enough.
Let's just talk a little bit about. There isn't necessarily like a lot, but we can just kind of talk about how the movie introduces itself. So, according to Wikipedia here, how it starts. Spoiler alert. After a spectacular and mysterious cosmic event, ants of different species undergo rapid evolution, develop a cross-species hive mind, and build 7 strange towers with geometrically perfect designs in the Arizona desert.
Yes, and these things look fucking cool.
Yeah, no, the design of them is very creative. These initial towers.
Yeah, it made me think of like
2001.
no, like an Escher painting or something, or like a German expressionist film, or like Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Like these weird, like they're such a strange, precise thing.
Yeah, they're these kind of crazy rhombus-based towers that have like a little split opening like a mouth.
Yeah, and like the top is like tilted back, but it's
Yeah.
still like perfectly angled.
I kind of interpreted them like visually as like
Watchtowers.
being like being eyes,
Yeah.
Eye of Sauron type shit. But yeah, overall we can kind of talk about like the aesthetic of this movie and like some of the choices made here.
Yeah.
But let's
It's a
see.
hot movie.
Yeah, it's a hot movie. Things are hot. We're out in the
it
desert.
gets hot, figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
I'm sure that my shitty projector, because we had to watch. Well, I say I had to. It's fun. I love watching movies on the projector. But we watch it on my projector, and I do notice that like this projector takes away a lot of a lot of warmth.
Yeah.
A lot of warmth. So I'm sure that like the color that they actually are showing in the movie is like the whole screen being warmer and hot
Yeah.
and stuff. And it becomes an important factor later. The characters are sweaty.
Yes.
Yeah, we quickly get introduced to our 2 scientists, James R. Lesko and Ernest D. Hubbs. Lesko and Hubbs.
Yep. The famous buddy cop duo.
The buddy cop duo. Yeah, and these are scientists who respond to the scene. You said which one's the older asshole scientist? Hobbs.
Yeah.
You said Hobbs is an entomologist, and what's Lesko?
From what I remember,
He studies like
he's a mathematician and kind of a
game theory shit.
Yeah, game theory. Yeah, he does a lot of game theory.
Yeah.
Wikipedia doesn't have what their specific fields are. It just says scientists.
He's
It's funny to me.
Yeah.
But the
he's
reason why-
slightly less interested in this.
Well, the thing is that Hobbes brings him in because he knows that a mathematician that is very much more specifically centered around like patterns
Yeah.
and how these patterns correlate. He's going to need that to prove that the ants are working in a hyper intelligent manner.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're like one organism.
Right, because we brought in another biologist or entomologist, they wouldn't really have gone as far as they could have,
Yeah.
Yeah, so they come out, they they find the ant towers, and they go and visit this family who lives in the area, getting their take on what's happening. And like you said, Joseph, they remind you of American Gothic.
Yeah.
This family.
Honestly, the wife looks exactly like the lady from American Gothic, with maybe like a little bit of Granny from Beverly Hillbillies. Yeah, no, they're like they're told that they need to like leave, right? Is it because they're in danger?
Well, it's also because the ant activity around that area is driving people away,
Yeah.
and they haven't quite, done anything very much out of general kind of like, look, we don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And the other time, like, they don't really have anywhere else to go, so they just figure they'll homestead themselves through.
We'll wait it out. We'll wait till it's
Right.
we'll wait till it's bad.
Yeah.
We'll wait till the ants eat their horses.
Yep. And they do.
Yeah, I feel like the first act of this movie kind of sets up a good creepy vibe, almost in a way, kind of like how do I put it? In a weird way, the first third of this movie gave me some Tremors vibes.
Yeah.
And honestly, structurally speaking, it's not that dissimilar. These creatures underground are trying to get at us. But in terms of like these the two characters kind of going around seeing the evidence of all these strange happenings, like in Tremors, like the graboids eat the goats, and in this movie they find was it a sheep or
yeah, they kill a sheep.
A sheep and a farm animal from the inside out, like they find that
they're carnivorous.
Yeah, these
but they actually did it more as a way of warding it away because they were trying to cultivate a section of this particular crop, and and the sheep just apparently wandered in too close to their food stock, and they just took it out.
Yeah, you can see this like crop circle that they've made where they're like cultivating. Yeah, they like leave a square in the middle. It's very
a rhombus, Joseph.
Everything
it's not 90-degree angles, but
everything the ants do feels super alien.
Yeah.
Like this is a different kind of intelligence. Like,
I forgot to mention that within all that, the opening of this movie or the first, I'd say almost 10-15 minutes are these like super massive close-ups of ants kind of going about their business, and like functioning within the colony.
Very cool macro shots.
Yeah, and honestly, throughout this movie, I feel like I was saying like, oh, these are great ant actors, but as far as like, they do a good job using a combination of how they shoot the ants, how they light the ants, and the music.
Yeah.
And just sound design overall to give the ants mood.
Yeah. These ants act their hearts out.
Yeah. Like there's a scene later on in the movie, like way later, just want to talk about it, where the ants are like grieving.
Yeah.
It's like a ant fucking mass funeral.
Yep.
Memorial.
Yeah, they have them all like laid out in lines. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like ants going like up and down,
and you can see the ants mourning. I guess that's the Kuleshov effect, but still.
Yeah. No, I mean it
extends to ants too.
I just think filmmaking, they used all these elements of filmmaking to make me feel. It was me. I'm like, wow, they lit these ants' faces.
Yeah.
To look
and
like
they're
looking
sad,
down,
all down, downtrodden ants.
Yeah, they. I think what I'm trying to say is I think the filmmakers did a really good job at giving ants personality.
Yeah.
In a way, it almost kind of reminds me of sorry if I'm rambling, guys, but the fucking slight tangent. I recently watched this really cool video essay on YouTube. I'm gonna find the name of it in a minute once I shut the fuck up. About dog acting.
Okay.
And just kind of like the history of like how they get dogs to put on certain behaviors in movies and how like it just interesting stuff. But yeah, so
ant acting.
What do y'all think about the setup of this movie, the first third?
I think it's cool.
No, it definitely got my interest. That's what I'm saying. I was watching this years ago on cable, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, one of the first shots is like a planet going around the sun, like it was super slow. It's like all these like cosmic planetary stuff.
Right, like this weird alignment going on.
Yeah, and it's like something happened in the galaxy and some rays or whatever shot and turned these ants super intelligent. It's like a gift from the gods. It's the monolith.
The solar flare.
Yeah. It's like this is a massive event that's happened and we just don't know it yet. Yeah. Exactly. It's like it's a real hook. It gets you. Gets in the mood for some spacey stuff.
Yeah.
And again, it's not just, oh, the ants get really smart and they're taking over the planet. It's more like, how are they going about it?
Yeah.
And hence the whole movie being broken up in phases. Phase 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
They've just gained intelligence. And
Phase
it's like,
2 was long as fuck.
What does
yo.
that look like? Yeah, phase 2 is most of the movie.
Yeah. But basically, yeah, at a certain point, I forget exactly. I think it starts with our two scientist characters studying in their dome lab
Yeah.
in the middle of the desert. Or I don't know if it's like a quick thing that they've set up or whatever.
Yeah. It's a station.
The
Research station.
the family horses get attacked. I believe that
Do the ants set a fire?
No,
How'd
no.
the fire
No.
get started?
the husband set the fire.
Okay. We see a bunch of ants on a little raft.
Right. They're trying to get into
They
the farm.
forded the river and gotten in.
Yeah. Which
Yeah, for some reason, so like this is after this. Was it Hugs? What's his name?
Hubs. And,
Hubs.
Hubs and Lesko.
and
This is
Lesko.
after. I'm not gonna remember that. This is after Hubs shoots their towers down with a grenade gun.
Pretty much.
Is that
So
after
this-
that? Oh yeah, it
'cause
is.
This is
Because-
like their retaliation.
Yes.
Mostly because
So
initially
these people had nothing to do
they
with
go
it.
they go to the facility after warning the farm, owners and
Yeah.
the like, hey, we're gonna be doing some potentially dangerous research, and y'all gotta like amscray.
Yeah.
And they set everything up, switch all their sensors and monitors on, but they're not getting any activity other than just marveling at these superstructures in front of them.
Yeah, they're like, we need to speed, because they're like talking to their their funder or
And he's
And-
like, hey, can you like expedite
yeah,
this shit?
is there any
Yeah.
way we can speed this up?
Can
yeah.
you hurry this up? And the old scientist is like, you can't hurry up science.
And then
But
Hubs,
maybe.
being Hubs, is like, you know what? I've got this grenade
Yeah.
launcher.
Yeah.
And then that's when shenanigans
What's he say?
ensue.
Like, what's he
Yeah.
say before he shoots? It's something really telling. He's like, "You will give us like."
Like,
he's
so
like-
he was demanding shit of the ants.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
Right.
He was ordering them to.
I think overall, yeah, it's interesting how both of these scientist characters come into
Mm-hmm.
these ends. Like this guy Hubs is like cold and calculated.
Yeah.
And it seems like his end goal is more like we want to.
Yeah.
We want to control the ant. We want to best the ants before they best us.
Yeah, Hubs is the kind of mind that like he encounters this and his first instinct is to be antagonistic before it and like exert humanity's power over it.
Yeah.
While Lesko is like more cautious.
More cautious, wants to learn about it, wants
Yeah.
to respect it. and,
Yeah, like are we doing science or are we doing like intervention into
Yeah.
Right.
into like another species development?
exactly, like wants to like
It's
kind
like
of
colonialism.
yeah, it is really interesting. It's like Lesko wants to observe the ants and like learn how they communicate, and that's what his focus is. Like, I want to learn how
Yeah.
to communicate with them. Whereas
And
Hubs is like, no, let's learn how to fuck them up.
he very explicitly is like, we need to show them. We it's our job to be a teacher and tell them where their limits are. And it's
Yeah.
like it's almost like he wants to protect humanity from them, or like kind of shepherd them along. Like humanity can never
Share
not-
the planet
Yeah,
with another intelligent species.
exactly.
Yeah,
And that's the core conflict. It's
they-
really cool.
they hit the ants with yellow.
Yeah, they give. They give
No explanation as to what the yellow is.
yeah, they're
It's-
like,
it's
all right,
yellow.
hit the yellow button, 100% yellow, and they spray
This yellow goo,
yellow Cheeto dust over everybody.
Yeah,
and
over
all the ants.
and over the family that's trying to like escape to
It's
the
like
scientists.
poison and also glue, and it kills the scientist or the
the
farm,
family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, except for the daughter,
Yeah.
Kendra, who hid in the wine cellar in the storm door.
Yeah,
And she kind of like develops a bit of a relationship with Lesko.
yeah,
And I feel like there was the middle kind of in the middle of the movie when he's like explaining to her like their study of the ants and like
yeah.
what they're doing. She's definitely a little bit of the audience character in terms of like we need
Need
A
someone for them to
relatable
explain it to.
character, right?
And also, like I said, it almost felt like a studio note
Yeah.
where it's like you can't just have this movie just be two guys talking in a dome.
I feel like you could maybe have had like a third thing. Maybe they have like an intern with them who's learning, or like a student who's there. I don't know.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's a complaint. It's just her character was just underwritten compared to.
she's barely a character.
Yeah.
Yeah. She doesn't. She does some interesting things, but they're not.
She's
they're not
more of a
interesting.
plot device rather than a character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She's the girl.
It's like the one flaw the movie has.
Yeah,
I can see.
exactly.
Everything
Yeah.
else,
It's
you
the
know.
most glaring one for sure.
I don't know necessarily like would it be a better or more straightforward movie if it were just them.
Maybe if she had a character,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have minded.
Yeah. So they're studying the ants. Lesko is kind of like studying how the ants move.
Yeah.
And throughout the whole movie, they're just kind of having like these philosophical or more just like conversations about like how intelligent like the ants have to be, because the ants start like doing shit like disabling, destroying their power supply, and like you know.
Yeah, they really get in there and fuck shit up.
Doing weird diagnostics of like the facility's weaknesses.
Yeah. They kill a mantis and
Yeah.
and shove it into some circuits to short circuit the was it the AC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a big showcase of how scary smart these ants are getting.
Yeah.
And then visually, I think one of the more striking parts is when they build the reflecting ant hills.
Yeah, the solar farm mirrors that shine onto the dome
That are surrounding the dome
to try to heat them out.
Yeah, I think that's the start of Phase 3, if I remember.
Halfway in before Phase 3 goes underway. But yeah, that's like kind of like saying, hey, we can do the same thing you've been doing to us.
Yeah.
Oh, also at some point, Hubs got bit by an ant, and his arm is
for
ballooning.
The rest of the movie, he's losing his mind and getting like delirious, and his arm is rotting off of his body.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. I was hoping that he was going to turn into a creature by the end, but
I'm really happy that didn't
Yeah,
happen. I'm gonna be honest.
But better heads prevailed when
Yeah.
in terms of the filmmakers.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Let's show some restraint.
I mean, also they probably didn't have the budget for like a big creature. Like this ain't.
I don't know if it would have fit at all.
I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I guess I do usually skew more towards like, kind of the B movie
Creature feature shit,
schlocky shit. Yeah, but I think I don't know. Every once in a while, I want something. I want something that makes me think. So
Okay.
Well, it was just interesting because also, it's kind of interesting seeing what kind of individual Hobbs is when he's more, prone and vulnerable and succumbing to probably ant venom.
He's kind of starting to reveal who he really is more.
Right. He doesn't have the decorum that he initially had prior to the incident that injured him, and now he's like, I need to kill these ants. I need to find the queen.
He's like, they can't win.
Yeah. But then let's see what happens at one point. The Kendra. Just because looking at the time, Kendra sacrifices her. According to Wikipedia, she sacrifices herself to the ants.
She sees it as like, oh, it's probably me they want because I killed some ants earlier in the movie.
Yeah. And we think
but if I give them me, they'll leave these two scientists alone.
Right.
We think she's dead for a while. And then basically, let's see. At one point, Hubs goes crazy.
Yeah.
And decides to try to attack the queen.
Goes
anthill,
out, dies immediately.
and they laid a trap.
Yeah. He falls into a pit and he gets swarmed by ants who eat him.
It's really scary.
It's scary.
Yeah, he gets swarmed by the ants and all the dirt's kind of coming in. I sort of it's like they're just trying to bury him alive type shit.
Sick as fuck.
It's really disturbing.
They only wanted him. They communicate with the
with Lesko,
yeah,
because he's noticing that they have this weird algorithmic mathematical pattern, that comes in intervals, and he's like, okay,
how intelligent are these things?
Right, maybe if I kind of give him a similar pattern back and forth, and then they give him a message, and it turns out that they're kind of laying out the facility, and they make a little dot in.
And that's
quadrant of the circle that representing the facility, and it's like, who is it? It's got to be one of us, one of the three, and then it turns out it's Hobbs.
Yeah, because he's an asshole.
Yeah,
he's
fuck him.
Antagonistic.
Yeah,
but they're smart enough to not want to just kill all the humans.
Right.
Like there's like, well, this guy's really the only problem. There's no reason to burn this bridge.
True.
I like that they're not just mindless monsters.
No.
Yeah, like they're logically thinking.
Yeah.
So Lesko goes to at this point appear to try to get revenge against the ants, and the ants have constructed like
he hits him with the blue.
He hits him with the blue.
Not the blue. They were waiting to hit him with the blue because but he left them no choice.
They didn't give a fuck about the blue.
They gave him the yellow and they kept coming, so it was time to give him the blue. Anyway, he sprays them with blue poison is what I'm saying, but they just call it the blue.
Yeah.
It's a really weird thing about this movie.
Yeah, no, it is. They just don't name any chemical names. We'll just call it.
It's simpler for the
blue.
audience. It's really not the point of the movie, so we'll just
Exactly.
call it yellow and blue.
The ants construct a big room, spotlight room for him.
Yeah.
The big spot. In
Yeah,
the middle.
he goes into this like big hole that they dug for him.
Yeah.
And they made this big chamber with this like square archway, and it's one of the coolest things in the movie. It's like, whoa, they like made this for him.
Yeah. But fucking
Kendra digs herself out of the dirt.
Well, no, the ants like rise her
Yeah,
from the dirt.
yeah, they do.
They
And
kept
she's
her-
like, yay.
They kept her alive the whole time, and it seems like the way
This ending is wild.
this ending is wild, and I feel like it's up from it's up for interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wikipedia doesn't even necessarily know what the fuck
I
to
see
make
it
of
as like the ending of 2001, where it's like they're like so Lesko and Kendra like meet in the middle of the room, and then something happens, and it's like it's almost like they're imparting what happened to them, like that kind of like next evolutionary step, and like making that my reading of it is like
making humanity closer to ant.
like no like making them something new, like
What happened to the ants?
yeah,
No,
like they're kind of doing the monolith thing.
Well, I kind of see that too. That's what after watching it again,
Yeah.
similarly after first watching Phase 4, I thought like, yeah, this is very much like, like they're kind of leading them to this point where like you're now the patient zeros for this accelerated evolution for humanity now.
Yeah. I exactly. That's what I think it is too.
So, and it's very similar to, granted this came out in the early 70s, but it reminded me a little bit of the ending to Annihilation, too.
Yeah, no, for sure. 100%.
Yeah, no, it reminded me a lot of the ending of 2001.
That as well, yeah.
Which if you've seen, if you've heard like what Kubrick, I think it was Kubrick talking about the ending, it was kind of like, imagine like us, it's funny, imagine us trying to communicate with an ant. Like,
right.
That this is like, what if like a higher life form is trying to communicate with us?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just all it's just going to be nonsense. It's going to be insane, like overstimulating, crazy shit.
Beyond your comprehension.
Yeah. And that's kind of what happens at the end of this movie. It goes pretty buck wild with the visuals. It's pretty cool.
It goes pretty nuts, and then it ends on a beautiful sunrise.
Yeah.
Which, bookends, because this movie opened with a sunrise as well.
Yeah.
And
I was honestly, what I was expecting from the ending of this movie was way worse. I was expecting just like, and then the ants slowly but surely took over the world and
That's kinda
became
where I
the
thought it was
dominant
going to.
species. But they're smarter than that. They don't just want conquest. It's so cool. I like this movie a lot.
Yeah, definitely really interesting. I'm excited to look up YouTube video essays on it. That was looking at. We are at a little after 33 minutes. So yeah, we are going to get ready for the next movie. God told me to. Right?
Larry Cohen, yep, God told me to.
God told me to. Another sci-fi movie coming at you. This will be instantaneous for you, but it will be an hour and a half for us. Okay. See you in a second. Fuck. Shit. Fuck. I'm leaving all this in. Hey, folks. This is the second half of the episode. We just finished. God damn it. Yeah.
God told me to.
God told me to.
God's
damn.
not dead.
God's not dead. God me too. Oh God, is it? We just finished God Told Me To. God Told Me To, released in some theatrical markets as Demon, is a 1976 science fiction horror film written, directed, and produced by Larry Cohen.
I needed it to tell me that it was a science fiction horror film because honestly, there's so much going on. It's also like a noir.
Yeah, it's a noir
detective story.
Detective film. It's There's no other question to ask other than, hey, so Rian, how'd you come across this one?
Oh boy, very similar to Phase 4. Late night, channel surfing plus recommendations of like, oh, these are like the most out there 70s cult movies you have to check out. And of course, me being me at the time, I'm like, okay, what's this all about? Huh.
Where's this going?
Going, right. And then when we get to the grand finale, you're just like, oh, it went there.
Yeah. This is the weirdest third act of any
Oh,
movie
man,
I've ever
is it?
seen.
It got so strange.
If you had asked me to predict the way this movie ends, and never in a million years.
Yeah.
It's a very strange movie.
It's really weird. Joseph, I'm not sure where to.
We just finished it. So
we literally just finished it. and
Elsie are both kind of recovering.
it is going to be reserved.
I'm just remembering, like, man, yeah, this movie is.
This is where
Buck wild. Dude.
This is where I would ask, like, a history of the movie or like things that it reminds you of. I will something that was going through my mind a lot.
Yeah.
In this while watching this movie, like in this may be people. This is what I thought Longlegs should have fucking been like.
Yeah, it would have been way better.
Like as far as like because to give people an idea at home with this movie, like basically this is not like what you need to know going into it, or what you don't need to know, but like the thing that you could tell people it's about. It's like, yeah, people like start going crazy killing people, and all of them say that God told them to do it, and there's this one detective who's like trying to figure out
seeing a pattern where like these like mass murders.
Yeah,
all the people who do them tell him personally that God told him. God told them to do it.
Yeah, and it is honestly a similar setup for Longlegs, the movie Longlegs, the murderers, because it's like like the husbands in these families just like murder their families for some reason. You know, there's weird. So I feel like there's a similar setup there. And funnily enough, how do I put it? This is going to be a weird little mini rant with Longlegs. I want, or for the have you, Rhea and Joseph, have you guys seen Longlegs?
Yes, I have.
I wanted it to go in the direction of it's a psychic serial killer killing people with psychic powers. Yeah. I didn't want it to go towards the religious, like I didn't want it to go towards the occult magic. Direction,
satanic panic stuff,
and that was the direction it took, and that didn't. Whereas this movie, I feel like, oh, this is what I wanted, because this is the sci-fi, bringing in like the weird, crazy shit, that I wanted out of that.
Yeah, this was buck wild. I would have preferred Longlegs if it was like this. Yeah, definitely. This movie like starts and it's like, wow, this is intriguing and interesting and dark, and then it like goes forward and is like, oh, this movie is weirder than I thought, and then you think that like 5 more times as it just escalates toward the end.
Yeah. Basically, this is going to be a hard.
It's a hard one to talk about.
This is going to be
where to begin.
Yeah.
So we begin with the opening of the movie. We're introduced to Lieutenant Peter J. Nichols, played by Tony Lobianco. I was scrubbing through his Wikipedia real quick. He looks like we mentioned so many
like New York condensed.
Every Italian actor that we could think of.
Yeah.
Half the cast of Sopranos he looks like.
He looks like Kramer.
Yeah.
Seinfeld as well.
This man who the movie starts and there's a sniper on top of a water tower, and he's called in to try to talk the dude down. And it's the first case of God made me do it. Whereas that's the sniper's response, and he wakes, and then the lieutenant wakes up as if it's a dream.
Yeah,
I think after the whole movie, I'm like, okay, it's like he's dreaming about this thing that happened. Like, this was an incident that happened that he's still not recovered from.
It happened. Yeah.
The movie starts off, and he's following these cases. Basically, okay, I guess the question asked is in this first third of the movie, in this first act. Rian, you can speak to like maybe the first time you saw it, as far as like where you thought it was going. Joseph, Rian, what direction did you think we were heading in this? At that point,
I saw it as like, oh, this is like a weird like, you're noticing a pattern of like, it was like a real thrill. It got like my imagination going, but I thought that it was going to be like. Some like radio signal, or maybe like MK Ultra or something.
Government interference.
I wasn't expecting anything like crazy supernatural, but here we are.
I kind of saw it as like a weird period movie, in the sense it's in the 70s. So I'm thinking This is also just shy of when both The Omen and The Exorcist came out, so there is a bit of like religious horror, residual still
definitely.
lingering. And it's the flip side. Instead of the devil, it's God.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if there wasn't a supernatural element involved, it just makes you think like, okay, is this like, religiosity taken to its extreme final conclusion? Is this some sort of like weird mass trend that's going horribly wrong?
Yeah.
Like you said, could it be, some sort of government, experiment, being...
Yeah, it really gets your imagination going. And my problem with stories like this, where it makes you ask a lot of questions, the stuff I come up with in my head is always like
a lot cooler,
more
than
interesting to me than what the actual answer is.
Yeah, no, that's definitely
that was my problem with Heretic.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen Heretic yet.
No,
so.
That's not a spoiler.
Gotcha. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I feel like this movie kind of goes in the direction. I mean, I enjoyed the journey more than like where we landed. I think now that I'm like, we literally just finished this movie less than
me too
5 minutes ago. Like I really enjoyed the journey, the filmation. I thought the performances were really strong.
It just kept getting wilder.
It kept getting crazier and crazier. And basically in the second act of this movie, so basically the first third of this movie essentially is there's just the question of like, what is behind all this? Yeah. And as you kind of learn more and more about some of the people involved in these murders, like we're tracing down leads, we discover that aliens start to get fucking involved in the plot.
Yeah, we're like, it's an alien movie.
Yeah, this is where the second act is. And because there's I forget exactly how we get there, but like we learn that the killer or the suspected killer was a virgin birth.
Yeah.
And they go through they talk to the cop which that was a crazy fucking scene, the way that was presented. They go to this cop who had this unsolved case where he ran across this woman, this naked woman running in the streets who describes
being abducted by aliens.
Describes being abducted by aliens. It's the 50s and it's not. Yeah. And
I thought the flashback is in black and white, which rules.
Yeah, the flashback is in black and white. There's a lot of really cool stylistic choices in this movie for sure. I really like how this movie, like visually,
it's crazy because some scenes straight up look like Law and Order, like a procedural police drama, like you said.
Right.
Yeah.
And then others look like super like crazy stylized, like like super colorful, and the camera's tilting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's very varied. Depending on what the scene is.
It doesn't have as much of a handheld feel.
Yeah,
there's some of those scenes. Like there's a big distinction between the kind of real on the ground distinct scenes and the scenes where something crazy is happening.
Yeah, which I think is cool.
Yeah, but no, we this woman was abducted by aliens, and we literally see in the movie like visualizations of the flashbacks where there's a fucking spaceship flying overhead coming, and she's being impregnated.
It's like a Star Wars spaceship too. Like it's not like a flying saucer.
Exactly. Earlier on in the movie they kind of described it as a flying saucer, but no, it is like a hunk of junk like put together. Like literally
it is strange looking.
Yeah. I guess we never necessarily see what like the aliens quote unquote look like as far as like
no, not at all. Aside from glowing yellow.
Wikipedia describes them as energy based beings. So it is possible that like what they're supposed to look like is just like they're made of light or made of energy.
Yeah. It's pure energy, right?
Type deal. Why they have a chest vagina though?
You know.
Why that
and ride around in junker spacecraft?
Yeah, no, you'd think
that's
that like
for the aliens to know.
Well, you'd think that some energy beings would have a sicker ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they have they got the spaceship on discount.
These are like the trailer trash aliens.
Yeah, but yeah, no, and I guess once we kind of get into that alien plot, I guess I was kind of expecting it to go more in a place where we get. It felt like there was a lot that was going to be revealed. Yeah. As far as like more specific ideas about like what the aliens are doing. Like we don't necessarily we don't necessarily get the answer as to like why.
Yeah, I think the movie's like way more focused on the God as a theme than like sci-fi in
Yeah.
general. Like it's more. I think it's more interested in asking questions about like God and religion. And it's
Right,
using
and
aliens as like
a launching pad.
Yeah.
Plus, it also it helps that the main character, the detective, he's very much a devout Catholic.
Yeah,
he's super religious.
that's very important.
and that's why this stuff is affecting him so much.
Right,
Yeah.
because each time he deals with a new perp that commits a mass murder and just says, God told me to, you
Yeah.
know, it's like a repeating pattern. It's not just,
That would really
I'm
shake
noticing
you.
something. It's more like, oh my God, figuratively and literally, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a it's an interesting thing where it's like, I guess you could argue that this movie is kind of about a man. You could argue that it's about like losing faith in some sense, or like finding out that the higher force in yourself just is like another entity. I don't know. There's a lot of
It's almost kind of Lovecraftian.
This movie's a lot to digest.
yeah, it's a lot to digest and talk about in a podcast after just watching it.
Yeah.
I want to say I recommend it as far as like
Check it out.
it kept me engaged the whole time. It definitely is interesting.
It's buck wild. I know we just spoiled like most of it.
Yeah, but you should still watch it.
Yeah.
just to see how it plays out, you know.
Yeah, I think that anytime, here's the thing. Okay, here's where I think it impressed me, or where it's always tough when they bring Jesus into sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
That was exactly my ironically in this movie got me thinking about. I recently, folks at home, spoiler alert for this movie, the Man from Earth, where basically it's tough whenever you bring Jesus. For me, and this is for me personally, this is like a weird thing. When you bring Jesus or bring in like religious historical elements into sci-fi, for me it becomes like, oh, that's a big pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Because in The Man from Earth, like spoiler alert,
That's true.
like it's this man who he claims to be 14,000 years old, and then he claims that he was the inspiration for the Jesus myth.
Yeah.
And everything from there kind of like breaks down into like religious squabbling, and that's just something that I guess isn't as interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, I think this movie is more like bringing aliens into, like, bringing sci-fi into a religious story
Yeah,
than the other way around.
Right.
Yeah.
Religion to a sci-fi story.
exactly.
Like, for me, honestly, I guess aliens is the only way to like have a succinct explanation as to what's going on, aside from just like, this guy was God the whole time, because I think that would have been way less satisfying.
Right, you know.
Yeah. I think it was just a means to an end.
Yeah, he uses his god powers once.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, he's only like part god. Like his god juice, his god DNA had to be activated.
It was all just to kill some black people too.
Yeah,
Right.
Fucked up. Yeah, so
It's kind of fucked up.
fucked up.
Remember these characters halfway in the movie?
you
This
know,
movie's a little bit racist. Fair warning.
You know, the only black cop we have on the squad, he's a dirty cop.
He's
selling
corrupt,
drugs.
and he's working with the other black people who are also criminals.
Yeah, no, it's fucking
Yeah,
whatever.
that's the part that's aged the poorest. I
yeah,
think.
no, he goes out and he kills he kills the sinners, I guess.
Yeah,
Maybe that's the whole deal. Is like they're going out and killing people who they think are yeah. I guess the main thing I kind of did want or hope that would be revealed is the motivation of the, like, why are you coming and making Jesus babies on Earth?
Yeah.
Are you trying to take over? Are you trying to just like spread influence? Like what's and
don't worry about it.
I don't know. I feel like that wider. So like it's something like I feel like I got that sense of resolvement in something like They Live.
Yeah.
which you could argue
Well, this is extremely
very different.
ambiguous. You know, which I think, it's religion, so
yeah,
and
Right.
religion's ambiguous.
yeah,
Not only that, They Live is basically this mass societal like
Yeah.
revelation, whereas this is more like,
Yeah.
wow,
yeah.
okay.
This is like, it's a cult, but they're also worshiping an alien that believes itself to be God.
This is basically the plot of Assassin's Creed.
Okay, I believe you.
There's a lot of like out there. I feel like there's like the the ancient aliens, Jesus was an alien.
Yeah.
Kind of like content is
That's in here, yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, that's been a recurring theme in some episodes of Star Trek or whatever
Yeah.
series. Like,
yeah.
There's some sort of alien entity of some sort that claims to be a god or a
Yeah.
deity.
Why do you think sci-fi content keeps coming back to that idea?
Because religion is so prevalent in society, I think.
Yeah.
So, and I think sci-fi has an interesting take on religion.
Right.
Yeah. All these kind of stories are maybe it's that they're not hard to swallow. Maybe it's just something that, like, I was not raised religious whatsoever.
Okay, it's just
Like-
not really an interest of yours.
Yeah, not even a little. Well,
Yeah.
even just as far as, like, I feel like I don't have, the exposure previously to be able to, like, relate
Yeah.
anything to myself to it. Like, the closest thing, like, the thing, and here's the thing, I don't find religion on interest. I find the psychological effect of what religion does to society is more interesting than religion itself. Like something like The Mist is a kind of movie about religion that I enjoy because it's more about like the psychological effect religion and belief can have on like society versus
I think that was the direction I was hoping this movie would go in.
Same,
more.
yeah.
Where it's kind of like God told me to is such like a fucking like mind fuck of a thing to hear after seeing like a tragedy like that. So it's like if you're so sure that God told you to do something that you'll do something that's horrible, like I think that's an interesting thing. But this went in a completely different direction,
Right, you know.
Yeah.
which was also very interesting.
How we feel about the ending, y'all?
I barely understand it. I think.
From like a visual standpoint, from anything.
Just I think me grappling with the fact that there were two god aliens and one was the protagonist. I think that took up a lot of the ending for me. Just trying to wrap my head around that.
Or the fact that, these killings are what leads to the discovery that there's been like this extraterrestrial cross-species breeding program.
Yeah, yeah. He meets his sibling, who's also a god alien, and his sibling's like, we could mate and make more.
Yeah,
and then
we can
lifts up their shirt to reveal a chest vagina.
Yeah,
that's kind of weirdly like pulsing, and you're like,
it's an alien chest vagina.
I think that's the point where I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah,
there's too much here for me to wrap my head around right now. I think I just need like a repeat viewing.
Yeah, no, it got nuts. And like this character Bernard is like looks like the golden aliens from Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 also made me think. I thought about this week. Ego the Living Planet, because that's his whole deal in that movie is he goes around in space and impregnates women from different species.
Yep.
And
now he's like a demigod.
Yeah.
Who's in prison.
And Peter. Yeah. Oh, well, they killed Ego.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This movie. Yeah, no. Not much to talk about beyond. I recommend checking.
God told me to.
God told me to. Recommend to check it out. Strangely enough,
Buck Wild.
After watching Phase 4, I was like, oh well, this next movie will be the easy ride. I don't know if this was the easy ride.
That's kind of why I initially
this is
thought
way more
the
challenging.
reverse.
Yeah,
this was I might put in the description like these movies are kind of hard mode, folks.
yeah. Just so you know, you gotta like really lock in.
Yeah. Like these are
gonna make your brain work.
Take out a bring a notebook.
Just like from the themes alone.
Yeah, bring some coffee.
Yeah.
Completely stark opposite, thematic concerns, but nonetheless, like you all said.
Good double feature.
Yeah. Definitely a good double feature.
I would watch God Told Me To first though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can kind of chill a little bit for the second one.
Yeah, just watch some
ants.
Watch some ants in part 2. Some ants are gonna have an ant funeral.
Yeah.
It's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Right. Gorgeous,
no ant funerals in this one.
Gorgeous macro cinematography and pulsing alien vaginas.
Weird question that I should have. I haven't even thought about my damn self, and this is gonna be a hard one. Props.
Prop for
both. What? Take one prop from each movie that you'd want to have.
Okay.
Put on your shelf.
Phase 4. I want one of the big towers.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'll put it on my lawn or something.
It's an anthill. Tell people.
And for God Told Me To, that's a really hard one.
There aren't necessarily.
I'll take the model of the spaceship.
Oh, damn it. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, Joseph pretty much. Just,
I took the good ones.
You took the
That's
good
why I
ones.
go first.
That's fine. I'll take one of the little, like, either, like, the weird pulsing close-up of the ant eye model or
That's a good
one
one.
of the reflector ant hills.
Yeah.
That's from Phase 4. From, God Told Me To.
There's nothing. It's just a city. I don't know. There really aren't that many like props.
The alien vagina prosthetic? I don't know.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I won't ask why.
No, it's more of a conversation piece.
It's just something for the show.
No. It's just I like showing it to people.
Fucking.
And then trying to get my cat to stop playing with it. Like, cat!
Stop! You don't know how weird that is.
Yeah. For me, I think I'd go with let's see. In the in Phase 4, I really liked maybe one of their hazmat suits or
the shiny, glittery hazmat suits.
Yeah, or
Don't breathe in the yellow.
Actually, wait, no. I want like a cast of his fucked up like ant arm.
There you go.
His rotting ant arm.
Necrosis
Hanging on your
ridden,
wall. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
In
cool.
like a shadow box or something.
Yeah. Or it wouldn't actually. It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be a thing for me, but like I want like a painting of like the ant funeral, like a Holocaust painting.
That
or
moment
something.
just really got to you.
Oh no, that's the most memorable. Like I'm like these ants have gone through war. And yeah, God Told Me To is a really tough one because it's not really.
Yeah.
Really,
We left you the scraps.
yeah, no, yeah, it's not really a prop-centered movie. I mean,
No.
as far as visual iconography goes, a lot of what I'd want from that is just 70s shit,
Yeah.
like a phone that looked cool or a car that looked cool. And I'm trying to
What
think.
about that one hoodlum's shoes? He had some
Yeah.
good shoes.
He did have some fly
What
ass
about
shoes.
that dude's blonde wig?
That dude's blonde wig. Maybe the spotlight that just focuses on my eyes when I'm using my
Yeah.
god powers. I don't
You
know.
can take like a really funny profile picture that way. 'Cause
Yeah.
Your eye is like really
s-
wide.
Super saturated.
Yeah.
Yeah, something, I'm sure. There we go. Yeah, I want that. I want the highlight.
Okay. You can have it.
But yeah, this has been a hell of a fucking interesting episode.
Yeah,
I'm sure,
definitely.
yeah.
Good ones.
Yeah, next week we're probably coming at you with the 28 Days movies.
Woo!
To get ready for 28 Years Later, which is happening.
Yeah. 28 Days starring Sandra Bullock.
Yep. 28 ways to lose a man around the world in 80 days. Yeah, so you've been listening to Midnight Movie Gang. It's currently 10:38 p.m. Night Movie Gang.
Yep.
Yeah, you can follow us on YouTube at Midnight Movie Gang podcast on
Yep.
YouTube. Please check that out. We're putting up movie reaction videos up there, and those have been fun.
Yep.
Yeah, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever podcasts are found. Follow us on Instagram at Midnight Movie Gang, and yeah, have a nice night, folks.
Bye.
Take it easy.
Bye.
So, here we go. What you can feel with childish frustrations and complexes which the police are searching for James Thomas, believed to be the lover of Miss Williams, and her partner in the horrible murder of Walter. Where's everybody that I'm here to walk on? Oh, please tell me where this going. Please tell me. Sorry, I don't know. How long is man? How hopeless could I got in here? Please take us to Albany on 6 o'clock train tonight. What do you think? Special agent. Special agent.